So welcome everybody again. My name is Kathy Nelson. I'm the CEO and founder of the Photo Managers, if you don't know me. And once we used to do this every month, now we're doing it more like every other month. But what I have found over the years, it's really fun to invite different professional photo managers who have come from such an amazing background of most of our photo managers. And I always ask the same 5 questions. These are all on YouTube, and it's a great opportunity both for people that are considering a business offering photo organizing, photo management services to learn from other photo managers what they do and how it works. And also, we also have a lot of professional photo managers who like to join in to learn about their colleagues and what it is that they do and how their business works. So we're thrilled today to invite to welcome Megan O'Hare, who, like you just said, from York, right? Nebraska.
Yep, Nebraska. Yep.
And so Megan, tell us, welcome, and tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got interested in offering photo organizing, photo management as a business, and what did you do before that?
All right. So I started off my career in corporate marketing, and I spent about 15 years in between architecture and engineering firms, and then an ag company doing corporate marketing. So a lot of the stuff I still do today, I brought along with me from that career. And in 2016, when my son was born, so my second child was born, I kept telling myself I wanted to be a photographer. I went to college because my parents really wanted me to, but I always wanted to be a photographer. And so after I had my son, I was like, if I don't do this, I'm never doing this. Like I just need to just start. And so I started a photography business then and was still working in my regular 9 to 5 job and doing a side hustle of photography. And I did that for about 2 years. And then I went full-time photography. So um, I am still a photographer. I still take photos. And during that, working with clients on their creating their photos, I got a lot of questions from my clients about where to save the digital photos that I was giving them, how they should be saving them, where they should be saving them. And so it just made me think about that a lot. And as you know, I mean, I don't know if there is any other photographers here, but as a photographer, I was already with my client photos, I was very conscious of that. I was saving them very meticulously. I had a system. Overall, I'm just a really organized person. And so um, I had a system for my client photos, but I didn't really have one for my personal photos. And so while I was getting those questions from my clients, I was like, well, I mean, I know I'm not doing it right because I know I'm doing my client photos right. So I went on this adventure of, okay, I need to get my personal photos in better shape so that I can help just have a better explanation for my photography clients at the time. And with a simple Google search, obviously found the photo managers and a lot of other photo managers within that group who I began to learn from and took a lot of courses, watched a lot of webinars, and learned how to do my own personal photos just with the intention of I want to be able to share this with my photography clients so that they can be saving their photos safely too.
And
And at the time, go ahead.
no,
You go
you
ahead.
finish up. Nope, I want to
At
jump
the
in.
time, I didn't realize that once that conversation started, that it would just be a never-ending one. It became this, oh, no one I know is doing this right. And so it just grew, the need grew from there, and then my wheels started turning like, okay, I think there's opportunity here. I didn't want to stop I didn't want to stop taking photos. I loved photography. That was my dream, right? But it just became really apparent that there was a huge need for it. And so I started
And helping families, what type of, as you're still taking photos, like, are you a portrait photographer or like a family photographer?
Yes.
Do you have a
So
specific?
Kind of done it all.
Mhm.
York is a pretty small community. There's only one other photographer really in town. Well, there's a few, but one really. And so I I don't know, I just thought that I could help as many people locally as I could, and I helped people little by little, but the demand was so great and I didn't want to stop shooting. So at that time I was doing weddings, I was doing newborns, I was doing families. I did headshots for local businesses. I mean, I did it all. And so I did pare that down a little bit when I started doing photo organizing because there wasn't enough time for everything. And I shoot even less now than I used to because this has just grown so much in the last couple of years. So
Yeah, that's amazing. We do have a lot of members who are professional photographers who that's a natural fit for anybody that you're the clients that you already have. A lot of times professional photographers don't think about what about the photos that they shoot, right? Because you're thinking about photos that you shoot, but uh, anybody who hires a professional photographer already has probably a strong interest in love of photography because they understand
yeah,
the value of the investment, right? And then so they also take their own photos. But so the next question I usually ask is, how do you find your clients? And one thing I added to this conversation with Megan is, if any of you are online on Facebook or something, you might have received a Megan Oyer Facebook ad, and because it's pretty prolific and she's understood that business side of things, I think, quite well. So tell us about how you find your clients, how you originally found your clients, and what advice do you give on using paid advertising? Obviously, the fact that you come from a marketing background, that explains a lot of it, right? Your mind, you probably already have that hat that you
yeah.
have, in your mindset already. But go ahead and share a little bit.
I think that Facebook or Meta advertising can be super intimidating because you're giving money away essentially, and you're really hoping and praying to get the money back. So I have a group of friends that we all meet together and we talk a lot about Facebook marketing. So I have a good support group for that. But we always joke that it's like pulling a slot machine because you might win and you might not. And I think that's what's really scary about it. But because I had the corporate background, we were doing that in that arena already and I honestly was getting to run Facebook ads with someone else's money in the beginning. So while we still needed to be profitable, it didn't hit my pocketbook directly. But I think that the best thing for Facebook marketing is just to get some really good education. Just like with photo organizing, I found some really great mentors and some good groups, and took some courses that were just really helpful in learning where to start, what types of ads to run, and to get to my goal. And so I run lots of different types of meta ads. I run some sales ads. Sales ads are meant to convert, so it's meant to find a user that purchases your item from that ad. I also run a lot of lead ads. So I have a really robust email list of around 40,000 subscribers, and they've all come to that list through lead ads. So I've put together a couple of video courses and some detailed handouts that I run lead ads to bring in new leads that way. And then I also I sure if you've engaged with any of my ads, you know that I use keywords. So um, a lot of times I'll ask you to comment a word on my post, and then it will send you a DM with more information where I also collect your email there, promoting my course as well. So I use a combination of all three of those, and I really got into it. It was a slow burn at first, tiptoeing in, really started with lead ads, just really wanting to grow my email list, and then got more brave and more brave to run different types of ads. But I still run lots of different types of ads to bring people in.
A couple things I want to comment. One is you got braver. So I think that's always really
Yeah.
important for people. I think when we spoke for the first time not long ago, I remember saying I have two favorite sayings that behind me. One is one you can see is everything's figure outable, which is Marie Forleo. I always love that saying because especially in any small business, you have to have that kind of mentality. And the other one is Brene Brown that says, it's okay to be brave and afraid at the same time. And so I think like any business that we're running, when you're asking for clients or things like that, you have to have a little bit of chutzpah to like ask the question, and a little bit of bravery, and you're probably scared. So tell us about who's your ideal client and how did you make that decision? Because obviously, we talked about Facebook advertising, but you didn't start out there. You had to start out getting clients and deciding
Yeah.
who's your ideal customer for you personally, especially with the advertising you're doing. Your customer is not just in York, Nebraska, right? They're not down the street. They're probably coming to you from probably worldwide, I would imagine.
So this probably goes against like everything you know about marketing, and that my ideal client is myself. So I find it really easy to advertise to myself. And that was a decision I made right away in the beginning, was that because the photography clients that I was having interest from, I liked working with moms. I liked working with someone who was a mom like me, who was struggling with their photos, didn't have a lot of time, but knew that they were important to her. So for me, it's really easy to talk to my ideal client because I just say what I would want to hear. I set myself, like, what would set me at ease, what would make me feel like I could do it. What's interesting about that, though, is the demographic that I work with, especially. I have about 400 women in my membership right now, and the demographic is from, younger than me to much older than me. So evidently, whatever I'm saying to myself is working on lots of the age range and the different demographic, but I really just try to speak to a mom. Like, I know how a mom feels because I feel that way. I feel stressed. I feel overwhelmed. I feel like there's so many things I'm feeling at as a mom, that this is one, and a lot of times when we talk about photos, this is like one more thing we're failing at, right? We just don't know how to get caught up on it, or where to start. So that's really my ideal client, that the mom, it's like, I just can't get this done.
Would
And
you
it
say the majority of your
really
clients are digital? Do you get many analog and digital, or are you kind of focused?
So I fully market to for the digital photo library. I'm marketing to you to get your digital photos organized. I don't currently offer a course on printed, um, making your, becoming digital, taking your print from to digital. But that's something I'm working on. It's coming out in 2025. What we do a lot of talking about that inside of the membership already, because while women are going through the digital course, they're really consciously thinking about those printed photos as well. And so we've started planting the seeds for those things at this point. I have digitized all of my family photos. So I have a digital photo collection that starts when my parents got married in 1980 until today. So I have all 40 years of my life, almost 41 years of my life, in photos organized. And so I haven't taken that step yet because I started with digital. But we have enough women now that it's time. I need to help them move to that step. So it's
Uh,
time. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
They're asking for it.
they're asking for, yeah, there is a combination of both. Everybody still has a combination of both. So the next question I always love to ask people is, what is it that you love most about what you do?
Um, that's a really easy question to answer because, again, going back to when I started, I was selling my course as a standalone DIY course in the beginning using Meta Ads. And part of the reason why I did that was because I could only help so many people one to one. Um, and it didn't feel good to me. I was selling it and it was great and I knew people were buying it and I was really, hopeful that it was helping people, but I never knew. I mean, when you just sell a course to someone, a lot of times you're not speaking to them. You don't hear from them, of course, unless, there's a problem usually. And I didn't like that. So that is when I moved into a membership model. I still sell the standalone course, but I really try and encourage everyone to join the membership so that I can talk to them and meet with them inside of our membership. We do a lot of Zoom calls like this and teach inside the Zoom calls to help people where they're at in the process, because we all hit roadblocks and have different situations. And that's what I love the most. I love meeting the women, talking to them, getting to hear their stories. I mean, I get to know their kids' names, their husbands. We talk about everything. It's honestly more like being a therapist sometimes, in that, I'm helping them through their problems. So there's a lot of hyping up and a lot of, talking them through their issues. And then there's a lot of celebrating and cheering people on. And I love that. It makes it rewarding. It makes it feel like you're actually helping people. And in the same regard, all of my one-to-one clients, I was getting to do that with anyway, meeting with them and talking with them and helping them through all of that and celebrating with them at the end is, I mean, it's the best part. Just, I love people and I love getting to know people, and that's my favorite part.
And
It's
it's
just,
funny you say it like
it's,
that. I used to always say, if you love people and love stories, and this is the right business
yeah,
for you. And you come at it from a little different than a lot of the career advice from Pro, where it's people working usually one-on-one. So what percentage of your business do you say, would you have one-on-one clients? So you have a combination, or why don't you tell us what are the different
Yeah.
pathways for you to have clients?
So it's very intentionally a third, a third, a third. So about a third of my business is DIY course sales. A third of my business is my membership, where I spend a lot of time in my membership with them. And then about a third of my business is one-to-one clients. And the reason for that is I'm only one person. I do have 3 employees that work for me now. So my employees work mostly with one-to-one clients, and I have one employee that helps with the membership as well. I spend most of my time in the membership and on one-to-one clients. I do all of the calls and a lot of the heavy lifting, but we all work together to get it done. So it's really a third, a third, a third.
You surprised when you sit back and you look and you go, wow, I have a company where I have 3 employees
Yeah.
and how old are your kids now from when you started?
I have an 11-year-old and an 8-year-old, and I'm on year, I mean, 5 really, if you think about the beginning years. So, my daughter was 6 when I started, my oldest was 6. I think it's crazy because so if you would have asked me like 5 years ago, what was my dream was that and because I was working with moms and because I was a mom, I've always been really adamant that I want to have a career. I want to make my own money. I want to be a contributor in my household, but I want to be a mom. Like I want to be able to go on the field trips. I want to be able to drop everything if someone's sick, and I don't want to have to worry about needing PTO or getting time off, which working in the corporate world, I felt that a lot. I felt that heavy. Always felt torn between whether I should be the mom I want to be or the career woman that I was trying to be. And so that's what I love about this is that I get to be both. My kids also get to stand right behind this monitor and watch me do it. And I love that too because they see how hard I get to work and they see that I still get to be a good mom. I love setting that example for my daughter. And then the other thing was that I always wanted to have a team of moms that could do the same. And so I have 3 women that they all have different careers. One of them is a school teacher, so she does it on the side. Another one of them is a substitute school teacher, and so she does this in the in between. And then my other Brittany, she is a stay-at-home mom, and she works as many hours as she can for me. So I feel like I never thought that would be real, but that's always what I wanted. I wanted to be able to give that to whoever, you know, I could.
That's awesome. I love that. I love that whole story. It's powerful. I think so many women feel the same way, and it's really hard to be all things. And you know, it's really interesting at this many years later, since I started my business in the scrapbooking world when my kids were young. My son has a full-time business here in West Hartford, Digital Legacy Studios, and he didn't go to college and graduate to do that, but 2 years, 3 years ago, he left his full-time career and does this full time. So you are setting an example in ways that you probably have no idea. So the other question I always ask though is we ask what you love about your job, but anybody who's got a business, there are things we don't like about what we do and that are challenging and difficult. So what are some of the things that challenge you or that you find aren't like the perfect part of having a business?
Okay, so the thing I'll just be totally honest with you. I am absolutely terrible at email. Like I just am bad at it. I do not thrive in that space. I could call you on the phone and talk to you and tell you everything you need to know, but if you send me an email and I have to type it back to you, I freeze and I just don't want to do it. I struggle with it. So email, with the type of advertising that I do, I get tons of emails, I get tons of DMs. And so there's a lot of written communication back and forth with people, and I struggle with that. I have to be very intentional about setting aside the time to do it. Otherwise, I will put that off forever. So one of the beautiful things also about having as employees is that I do have an employee who that is her strength. She's very good at it. And Brittany does a lot of that communication for me now. So I struggled with it in the beginning. I, gritted my teeth and got through it. And now I don't have to do as much of it as I used to, but that is my least favorite part for sure.
Yeah, interesting. And part of what you've been doing is building a list, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
email is the bane of yeah.
I can, if I am sitting down and like storytelling, so if I'm going to write a marketing email, I can do that. I feel I have the story, I can, talk it out and gives me time to like tell a story. But if you ask me a very specific question, I have to provide a very specific response. I don't know why my brain cannot get that out of here into my fingers.
I realized this the other recently because I took 4 days off and I had to spend a whole day in a hotel room not going to a conference because I was answering emails and I realized the difference what was happens is I answer the easy emails all the time first in the morning that
Yeah.
are, it's the ones that I have to think about that
Yeah.
me like just like slow me down because it can't be a quick answer, and that's where I get, and that could take a whole day. Like I could
Yes,
it could
same.
take me a whole day to write back 7
I could,
emails just because I
I could
don't
spend the whole day thinking about the answer too before I can even write
well, yeah.
it.
Uh, the
Yeah.
next question I want to ask is, how has been being a member of the photo manager has been helpful to your business? I mean, do you find, professional?
Well, I wouldn't have a business if I wouldn't have found the photo managers because I never would have got my own personal photos organized, one. And two, I didn't know this was a thing. I didn't know it was a career I could have. I joke about that sometimes, like if I would have asked my 18-year-old self what I was going to be when I grew up, this was not even like on the radar at all, not in the universe of radar. So I wouldn't have done this if I wouldn't have found the photo manager. So I owe you that. And I have a lot of the education is is a lot of what I practice and what I teach in my own course now. Parts of it I learned definitely from the photo managers. I also my continuing education when new things come out or things change. A lot of the education around pricing. Um, I really honed in on a lot of that and the contract stuff because when I first started, I wasn't really sure what I should be doing there. So I leaned heavily on the education side of the photo managers. I know we have talked about this, but I haven't been as social or as, contribute as a contributor because I'm I'm just a busy mom. I'm just trying to survive over here. So adding more things to my plate isn't always an option, but I know that there's a lot of really great things that that has to offer too. And hopefully as, I continue to grow and I'll dip more into that side of things, but definitely the education side has really, really helped me.
Great, that's awesome. And then last, before we go to questions, which I can see the chat is like, so people have questions, please, we'll, in a minute here, we'll answer, Isabel, read them out. But what advice would you give to somebody who's thinking about just getting started, whether it's, you've gone a unique route with classes and membership and, the third, but in any way, starting a business in this area, what advice would you give to people listening?
When you sent me this question, I tried to be really thoughtful about this because um, there was a point in both of my businesses, whether you talk about photography or digital photo organizing, where I hit burnout. And I think it is my personality type in that I'm a people pleaser. I don't say no well. And so, both with photography and then I did it again with digital photo organizing in the beginning, I took on too much. I didn't realize the demand that I was going to have for my service, and I took on too much. And so, I guess my advice would be if you do this, people are going to want your services. It's just when they find you, they'll want your service. So being mindful about what you're capable of taking on in the beginning, and not burning yourself out because that's no fun. And this job can be really fun if you let it, if you do it right. So first is that, and the second is knowing your worth. The other thing that I did wrong was in the beginning, I did not charge enough. Specifically when it comes to sources, I would take every one-to-one digital client at the same face value and would say, it doesn't matter how many sources you have, you're all created equal. I'm going to charge you all the same, trying to just do a flat free fee across the board. And I'm sure anyone who is a photo manager here is thinking, why would you do that? That's crazy. It is crazy. Don't do that. And just knowing your worth and how much time things are going to take and that it is okay to charge for that time. Um, for me, the price, what I was charging my clients, the price difference between photography sessions versus one-to-one digital photo organizing sessions was so much higher that I felt a lot of guilt about charging people that much money. And I think once you get into it and you know the amount of work that goes into it, you realize that it's okay, it's necessary to charge that much. So knowing your worth and understanding that you will be in demand are the kind of the two things that
Yeah, that's
I think
especially the knowing your worth. I think one of the things, especially if you're doing work that you love, and I think when it's meaningful work, like people's memories and their photos, that there's a feeling like you shouldn't have to charge that much, right? But that's knowing who your client is and what's the value to them as well, and then teaching that value, right? Because when you're marketing, you're not just saying, I'm going to get your photo. You already told us early on, you're addressing the problems that you feel like are
yeah,
overwhelmed,
yeah.
like you're failing on every level as a mom, this is
Yeah,
one of the things that
I
you're failing
think
at,
so,
right?
right?
So knowing that and then communicate and then talking to that brings your value much better than just saying. I always say, that's how I'll say, tell people I'm going to organize your photos is like saying you're going to watch paint dry. I mean, there's nothing sexy or fun about that, but I'm going to help you, relive your family memories and bring them back in your life and the photos that you care about. Then people are getting the idea of what it is that you're talking about, right?
I think too that just like coming back to the demand part of things, I still am surprised when I see a deposit email come into my inbox. Because with my one-to-one clients, I don't meet them and give them an estimate like I think traditionally most people do. Because we have such a long wait list to even get a meeting or get on the wait list, you have to pay a deposit. So you don't meet me, we don't have a conversation, we haven't made a plan yet. And I still am like, oh my gosh, I can't believe someone is trusting me enough at this point in the marketing funnel that they're like, I need her. And so I think I try to a lot of times I try to step back and be grateful that that is how easy it is sometimes to bring in those one-to-one clients because we have a wait list till June and
Right.
then
Well, that's a proof that there's more than enough business.
there's more than enough business for
Way
all
more
of
people who need photo organizers than there are.
there's so many. I always say like it is literally every human walking around on this planet because there is not very many of them that are doing it on their own correctly or at all.
Yeah.
So there's enough for everybody.
Well, thank you, Megan. This has been amazing. I think let's go to some questions. Isabel is there, and I think, like I said, I can see them coming in. So,
Yeah, so the first question is related to your team members and the type of work that you outsource to them.
Okay. So I have three. Two of them are part-time and one of them is semi-full-time, is what I like to call Brittany. And we base it on the projects we bring in. So most two of them, so Michaela and Lindsay, are both only one-to-one projects. So between them, they each have different jobs. One of them, her job is to centralize. So when all of the products come in that we need to centralize into one place, that's really Lindsay's job. And Michaela organizes once they're centralized. So the two of them kind of work as a team to get projects done together. Brittany, she does projects on her own start to finish. So she's like me in that she, starts with centralizing and goes all the way through the completing the organization. But because I'm the face of the company, I take I do all of the calls. So all of the intake calls and all of the completion calls and in between, if there's any calls that need to happen between the client and us, I do all of those calls. So, and mostly that's because my employees have no interest in being in that role. And so it's just a role that I have to fill, which is I thrive there, so it's fine for me. But really, it just really honestly comes down to what projects do we have and which projects, depending on sources, will fit into whose schedule is how I kind of divide up the work. And some of them I do as well. So if something's super challenging or is going to be really time consuming, that's something I take on because I have the most time to contribute to it. So hopefully that answers that question.
great answer. Yeah.
And earlier you'd mentioned that you had transitioned from a full-time corporate job to doing this as a side business and then now full-time. How long did that whole transition take, and how did you make that happen?
So I went from my corporate job into photography first. So as a photographer, that was a 2-year span. Probably could have been a shorter span for me at the time, but I was terrified to leave my corporate job. So I just couldn't pull the trigger. That was a 2-year span. And then once, so that was 2018, I left my full-time job to do photography. And I did just photography for quite a while until I started really doing photo organizing. But photo organizing, I would say from the time that I started doing photo organizing, it was probably another 2-year span where they kind of became equal, which I never expected. And organizing has just really outgrown the photography side of it. What I have found for me, at least where I live in a small community, is that photo organizing was a lot more profitable for me because my clients were anyone on the internet versus anyone in a 60-mile radius of where I lived, as far as photography goes. So, and I live in live in a very rural area. So that really is when that transition happened. So I would say, realistically, once I started really pushing photo organizing, maybe 2 years.
Great. And can you share a little bit about the platforms that you use or prefer to use to work on while remotely organizing your client's photo library?
So I think that I'm also unique in this. I use Zoom for our initial calls, but I don't actually work on clients' computers themselves. We have them ship everything to us. So hard drives, CDs, thumb drives, everything is mailed to us. And then we work on them here. I don't work remotely, especially with my having a team. It's very hard to work remotely when everybody's schedules are so different. So we don't work remotely. We do a lot of screen sharing on that first call to get a feel for things. I may move things around or copy things to hard drives so that we can get access to those things. But I don't use any remote software other than Zoom.
Excellent. And besides the remote software, what tools do you use for the organizing? And do you organize both Apple and Android? And what tools do you also use for cloud storage? So sort of what tools do you use in your business for all
Yeah.
the things organizing and storage?
So with one-to-one clients, it's really dependent on the client and what their situation is. Most of our clients, I have literally just like a handful of cloud only clients. And so with those clients, they are iCloud users. And so we use iCloud as their cloud and we organize within their cloud, and then help set up a backup system for them. So that would be one scenario. Another scenario would be, because the rest of my clients typically have hard drives, CDs, SD cards, piles of things that they need to add to whatever they're using in their cloud. We centralize everything on a hard drive and organize there. So my team is all Mac users, but we format hard drives and return photos back to them on their respective format. So if you're a PC user, your hard drive is formatted for PC. Mac, it's formatted for Mac. So again, it's customized to each individual. I do centralize and organize within a hard drive, and then we move back to a cloud service of their choice. So if that answers your question on what I use to organize, I think that might make it clear. The other thing is within my course, I teach my course very similarly. I have some cloud services that I love. iCloud, I love Amazon as well. And I have some cloud services I don't love as much, but it's ultimately up to the client. So we make whatever works for them work.
Yeah, that's a great point to work with what the client has already been using or wants to use,
Yes.
and then work around that. Because that's the
Because
end goal is you're not keeping your
I'm
clients'
not,
photos.
yeah, yes. Well, and also ultimately comes down to the fact that most of these people, tech is like a little bit hard for them anyway. And so if I say you can't use that cloud service anymore and you have to learn something totally new, that's kind of off-putting for them too. I am encouraging, I tell them the benefits of the things that I love and why I love them, but ultimately the choice is up to them.
Excellent. And can you share a little bit, you shared a little bit earlier that you found some pricing information resources through the photo managers. Can you share a little bit more about where you got that information?
That's been a while ago, so that might be something I have to go back and dig through. I do know that inside of just like the education portal, if you search for pricing or I know there's pricing for profit. That's something you guys have
Yeah,
talked
we have a
about.
couple of pricing
Yes.
trainings in the training vault, as well as a separate training on it. And then we've had a few online conferences like Profitability Live, which is probably where some of that information
Yes.
comes from.
Yes.
And while we're sort of talking about pricing, do you charge per hour or per project?
So my pricing schedule now, and you can find this on my website. So if you really want to know, it's all there for you to see. But I do it by source. And that was something I didn't do in the beginning. I said that earlier. But once I had a team, we really sat down and I was like, okay, what projects are taking us the longest? What's most time consuming? Where are we falling short on charging for things? And so I have a pricing, it's based on how many individual sources you have, and I have a list of those on the site, what a source is. And then it goes up as you have more sources. And on my website, it caps out, I think, at 5 sources. And after that, then it becomes custom pricing. So if you have more than 5 sources, that's when we sit down with you and we really map out what you all have and what we think the time will be on that. But I try not to, I don't like to get into a space where um, I give an estimate where I think this might take 20 hours and then it ends up taking us 40 hours and I have to go back to the client. So we're really more of a flat fee. So tell me how many CDs you have and I'll tell you what I think that's going to cost. That's really more where we land. That way there's no change in price once we've agreed to that amount. So with every client, once we've agreed on what you have and I've received it and we've agreed on the price, then there's no change in the price. The price is just flat. And I have found that when the customer knows what to expect right up front like that, then that it's easy for them to say yes to it. We also offer payment plans. So you can pay, for 6 months, you can pay for 3 months, even if your project is done. We still offer those payment plans. And I have never run into an issue with a client not paying, especially because we're very clear up front. They also sign a contract and agree to all of that. So I've had really good luck with that.
And have you ever run into situations where the client in the middle of a project comes back with you with more photos or another source and you have to change the scope? How do you, and which then, of course, usually changes the price. How do you deal with potential pushback from clients on that?
So this is maybe not a good business move, so don't throw tomatoes at me or something. But I really honestly err on the side of being kind to people. I haven't ever typically ran into a client who is trying to take advantage of me. And so if it is within reason and not too far out of scope, I just scoop it in with the rest because I chalk that up to a client for life is how I kind of think about it. If I'm, um, you know, on their team and am a good team player, then I know they'll come back. And I do have a lot of clients that come back every year. That has to be within reason. Brittany is very good at keeping me in line on that. I will say I'm too nice sometimes, but if you're gonna send me 100 more CDs, we're gonna have a conversation. But if you found another SD card or whatever it is, throw it in and send it. So I just kind of case by case on that. A lot of times I'll just scoop it in, and sometimes we'll go back and say this is gonna cost a little extra. Um, and just try to be reasonable about it. People are genuinely good. That's what I try to stick to that motto.
And I'm not sure if this is something that you have run into, but maybe you have, and especially with sort of being too the aspect of potentially being too nice. But what have you done in terms of knowing your worth if you quote something that someone feels is too much and they walk away from sort of the project and the opportunity for your business? This person
So
said that their potential client said it was too expensive, but the photo manager feels bad because she knows that the client really needs the help.
So I think that because of the way that we charge the deposit to even have a spot, the deposit is non-refundable. So when you sign up for a one-to-one, you pay a flat $500 deposit and it is non-refundable. And so what I find by doing that is that my clients don't push back on price. They've signed up, they've already paid sight unseen, and they're ready for the project. And so I have actually never quoted a client and had them walk away. Um, I have had a client want to re-talk about it all and maybe decide, do I need all of these sources? So we might go back and say maybe they have 3 cloud services, and we think, you know what, these are going to be exact duplicates. I'm confident of that. We might remove a couple of sources at that point, but I've never actually had a client walk away because of pricing. So I don't know what that says. I think I truly think it's because of that deposit. I think it's because they are hard bought in when they first initially sign up. And so they're there for it.
You've nurtured, I think the other thing that's important to mention is because of your marketing strategy using an online sales funnel, you've already given them they've worked through your funnel, there's a trust relationship built, which is very different than maybe a client that you met at a local networking group, or your your sister's best friend who walked you
Yeah.
pricey, right? There's
Yeah.
it's a two different kind of marketing strategy, different approaches, right?
Yeah.
Well,
And I think too, what's different about it is that if someone inquires, so someone might send me an email and say, "Hey, do you do one-to-one?" And I will say yes. And then we respond with our website link to where all of the information is, including all of that starting pricing. They may walk away at that point. They may say, "Heck no, that's too much for me." But they knew at that point the pricing, and that's why they walked away. So once they paid a deposit, they're very aware of if they have 3 sources and then they find a fourth, they've already seen the pricing for what that costs. And so they know that then they're going to move up a tier. So I think part of having that very open, honest, right here is what it costs. That also they know they're very educated prior to. And also they've signed a contract by the time I talk to them. By the time we're in a Zoom meeting, they've signed their contract, they paid their deposit, and they're here for it. They know what their role and responsibility is in payment, I guess.
And then some other, since we're on the topic, some other just tips that I've heard within the community on this particular thing has been changing the scope and making it, working, like you said, Megan, removing some of the sources. But another thing I've heard is just increasing the length of time.
Yeah.
One of those being payment plans, like you had also mentioned, where it's not all upfront. If they've waited this long to get their photos organized, they can wait another, 6 months to get them fully organized versus paying it all in 2 months to get them organized right away. So that's another.
And I think that's worth noting too. I mean, I've found that with a lot of my one-to-one clients that no one's really in a rush. They're not like, I want this done tomorrow. They just want it done. And so that's the other thing with adding a source. If you're okay with pushing the timeline and that this is going to take us a little longer, just send it. We'll get it done. I don't know. I feel I'm always trying to be rational and with it within reason, but I also really want the client to be happy and to do the best for the client. So I just kind of go with my gut on whether or not I'm going to upcharge for things. And I haven't backfired on me yet. So hopefully it doesn't.
And what size hard drive do you usually need for your client projects? And do you have a favorite product?
So I love the Samsung T7. It's my favorite hard drive of all time. And most clients are between 2 and 4 terabytes. It just depends again on how many sources they have. We have had to go up in size from that, obviously, for some of our clients. And at that point, we just kind of see what we think is going to work best. I don't want to overcharge for a hard drive either, because that's built into my pricing. So when you purchase, you get the hard drive included in the cost of my service. So we just make a decision on size based on how many sources you have. So somewhere between 2 and 4 typically on those the Samsung T7 is the typical project. It's not every, but most.
You mentioned earlier that you don't use any remote software. So a follow-up question to that is, how do you help the clients incorporate their completed hard drive into whatever software or system they're going to use? For example, if they will use Apple Photos, Mylio, or so on.
So if my client is going to use a Apple Photos, for example, we do all of that on our end. So we sign into their accounts. We create profiles on our computers for their iCloud accounts and complete all of the work on our end. And then they get to see it on their end, obviously. Also, Zoom has a screen share option where I can remote into their computers as well. And so during those final calls, I remote into their computers using Zoom, and we will set up, if they're going to back up, we'll use Amazon as an example. If they're going to back their hard drives up to Amazon, we can set up the backups that way through their computers. So cloud, a lot of times when they get their product back, their cloud is already completed. And their drives are completed. So there's really not a lot of reason to work on their computer. Not that I don't, and when I do, it's through Zoom. That might be non-traditional, I don't know. But
That it doesn't, I don't think there is I think you're doing.
I will say, like, in the beginning of doing all of this, we tried to do it remotely, and it quadruples the amount of time that it takes to do these projects. And it's tedious for everyone. And I even found in the beginning that I had clients that were kind of annoyed. It was like I was this gnat on their shoulder, like always needing them to like let me on their computer. And it made me uncomfortable. And I didn't like how long it was taking me. Part of my personality is proficiency and finding good process and being very efficient. And I was just finding that was not efficient for me. And so then that's why we decided to do it a different way. And what it allows us to do is just work a lot faster in a more streamlined way. The other thing I really like about it is it doesn't matter if you're a Mac or a PC user, really. I can get everything done on a Mac because I prefer Mac, but I can deliver it back to you beautifully packaged for a PC. And and it doesn't matter to you that I did the work on a Mac. So that's another thing that I like about the way that we do it, is that I can be more efficient and I can use the tools that I really love, whether that works with the client's computer or not.
Yeah, I love it. I think one of the key things, and we're going to be ending in just a minute, so I'll take one more question or two, but just in the interest of time, but is, the key to profitability is efficiency. And so I think as helping new photo managers start their businesses for the past 16 years, and even myself originally, we've learned if you're going to organize a client's photos very differently than you're going to organize your own family photos. And it's and profitability comes down to efficiencies and duplicatable processes, so you're not rethinking things over and over again. And that just takes time, right? I mean, you've built this business over time. I'm sure if you looked today, looking back to 3 years ago, you'd be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe, you've shifted along the way, right? And made
Yes. And I would say that, looking back on the way we did the first year, I'm like, whoa, that wasn't very efficient.
Yeah.
The way we do it now, we've just streamlined it and we have a very clear process. And I think even I say this all the time in my community, when I occasionally will get pushback from, a student, it's like, why do we have to do it this way? I always say, I understand why you might feel that way, but I have literally done this hundreds of times with other people's photos, and I promise you the process works. And I know it works because I have repeated it so many times over and over again with a variety of different sources and a variety of different styles that it came to me, and then it works every single time we get to the end. And so I think that's one thing, my fault, that I took on too much in the beginning. If that did anything for me, it made me really get that process perfectly down, so that I can be efficient now.
All right, Isabel, is there one more question we'll ask, and then we'll.
Yeah, there
close up?
was a question in terms of what shipping company and terms do you use, and what kind of insurance do you have to cover photo loss?
Oh, that is a loaded question. A lot, and we use depending on what's most affordable and where the client is what is the shipping that we use. And insurance, we all have it. I don't know how to. I could go into detail, but probably not in the time we have. But
Yeah,
yes,
a good business insurance to start, and
yes, good business insurance for sure.
and then
And there's also things built into the contract about that too. I mean, if my house burns down, that's, there's some things included in that. But we also take a lot of caution on what you send us in you having another copy of it. I don't want you to send me your only copy of a photo. And so whether that's me sending you a hard drive initially where we move things to that hard drive and that's the hard drive you send me, or not, we kind of work through those things. I don't like having the only copy of things. If we do end up with the only copy of things, we immediately make a second copy and send it right back to them. So there's a lot of different things at play, I guess, in terms of that.
well, thank you, Megan. This has been amazing. Somebody just said, will you be at conference? How about 2 more hours? Could we go another hour? Thank you for all the information. So I knew that we would have a lot of interest in things, and hopefully we'll bring Megan back for some additional opportunities for training. This is kind of fits with the idea of a rising tide lifts all boats that I always say, that, we're collaborative, not competitive. Many photo managers have learned from one another. And I'm always amazed at, there's a new way to do things sometimes that you haven't thought about and somebody else has. And so that's kind of the thrill of this. So you're getting a lot of thank you. Excellent insights. I don't think you're gonna be at a conference, right? You're gonna be away. Your daughter is in a cheer competition, right?
Dance competition, yeah.
Dance competition. So you're being a mom, which is why you're doing business, right? You're able to say, no, I can't, I have to say no to that, so I can say yes to that. So so thank you, all of you who are here. This will be, had a lot of questions. Yes, this will be on, we'll have it post up on our YouTube channel, The Photo Managers, in the next few, we'll do some editing cleanup and then have it up there. And so thank you, Megan. I really appreciate your time today. I know you gave a lot of people a lot of exciting things to think about. And so thank you all that were here. Thank you, Isabel, for your questions, and have a good day, everybody.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.